So we're in a great period of growth. Interfaith Works was founded here in Central New York in 1976. So we are celebrating our 45th anniversary serving the Central New York community. And we have been undergoing a huge amount of growth across all of our programs. So we are calling this period in our life capacity, action, resilience, and equity, because we were founded on a couple of key pillars. And you'll see this in our mission statement, which I've put up here. We affirm the dignity of each person and every faith tradition, builds racial and religious equity, and creates bridges of understanding among us. So this is our newly formed mission statement, but it really harkens back to why we got started. We were started by community leaders and faith leaders who were very actively involved in the civil rights movement of the late 60s and early 70s. And so we continue to have that pillar of racial equity, but also the pillar of building understanding among faith traditions. And back then, in 1976, really the community only had Catholics, Protestants, and Jews in any numbers of organized religion. But now, of course, we have Sikhs and many different Muslim mosques around town with different ethnic groups in those mosques. We have people who are from a variety of different Eastern religions, several different Buddhist groups, Hindu groups, and our job is to bring them together so that they can work for the common good of the community. We are not a religious organization in the sense of promoting religion. Many people who come to us are spiritual but not religious, or not religious at all. What we're really here to do is to build the common good and to build understanding among us so that there can be fairness for all people. So we're celebrating some pretty significant anniversaries this year. We're going through 45 years of our overall agency, and then 40 years ago, we started settling refugees. So this is our 40th year of helping new Americans come to Syracuse through the UN-sponsored refugee resettlement program. And that program works with the State Department here in the United States. And we've also been serving frail elderly seniors for 35 years. And I'll say a little more about that in a minute. And then finally, our Center for Dialogue and Action is now celebrating its 25th year. And I didn't hear a lot of people talk about that, so I'll tell you a little bit about that later. We're stepping up right now. There have been a lot of challenges that COVID has brought to us. The Black Lives Matter movement has raised our awareness around needing to do more work around ending racism. And then the growing poverty in our area, like I said about the food pantry. So we've decided to step up and step into some of these critical needs. And so we've expanded in a couple of different ways. One of them is settling more refugees than ever before. This coming year in 2022, Interfaith Works expects to settle 700 refugees and possibly more given the Afghan crisis. So 700 new refugees will come through our doors and be settled by our staff and helped to start their life here in the United States. We're also expanding our senior services program, and somebody asked about whether we serve in Madison County. We do have a senior companion program in Madison County, and we also have a Cazenovia Welcomes Refugees Coalition that we helped to found in Cazenovia. So in that way, two of our programs are very active in Madison County. We are now adding senior services up in Oswego County. So we'll now have 4 counties, Cayuga, Madison, Oswego, and Onondaga counties. And we're handling and tackling systemic racism head on in new ways and we hope innovative ways. So here's how we've been doing it. We're building back the Center for New Americans. Over the last 5 years, we've seen a significant drop in the number of refugees who've been allowed to come to this country, as well as the places from which those refugees have been allowed to come. And that is now changing under the Biden administration, who has fully supported the original number that Ronald Reagan settled of 125,000 refugees across the United States. So we're part of that new growth of bringing new citizens into our community. We've created the El Hindi Center for Dialogue and Action. It used to be two different divisions, one that worked on interfaith and one that worked on dialogue, and we're putting them together in one and adding an action component. So we have I'll tell you about that in a minute. We, as I just said, expanding our senior services, and we're adding some administrative staff. So here's how we're building back the Center for New Americans. As I said, we're expecting 700 new refugees in this coming year. And here are the countries, if you can see that alphabetically, from which they will likely come. So you're going to see a lot of people coming out of Afghanistan, likely a lot of people from Burma. The genocide in Burma has not hit our newspapers in huge ways, but it's very serious. And the Rohingya people, we have not seen a lot of Rohingya people from Burma in our community, but they will be coming in some numbers once the UN can begin to move them. COVID has wreaked havoc in the refugee camps and in the ability of people to travel. The conflict in the Democratic Republic of the Congo continues to be very deadly, and we have many people from the Congo, and you'll see that. We'll also start to see a lot more people coming from Somalia. They were not allowed to come under the Trump administration. No Africans were allowed to come unless there was a special case. So, but we will see a few people from all of these countries coming in this next period of time. So what do we do for them? Well, some of you know this and some of you don't. When they come, we meet them at the airport. We have set up a house for them using donated furnishings from our whole community. So some of you, thank you again for donating your extra kitchen table and a bureau and a bed and all those things. We have very strict guidelines from the federal government about what needs to be set up and the safety of those houses and smoke alarms and the right kinds of entrances and egress and all of that. The other thing that these refugees receive from us is something called case management. So we help them if they need to get medical a treatment for something, or if they need to get a doctor, or if they'll have to get a green card. The men will have to register for the draft. They will need to get their Social Security card so they can start to work. And then we move them into our employment services. Once we have secured all their documents, any kind of medical screening, et cetera, we go into employment and we help them figure out what kind of skills fit in today's job market here in Central New York. We make good matches, we build out relationships with employers, and we match them up so that they can get to work. Most refugees, unless they have a medical issue or are a young mother with children at home, are at work by the 5th month at the latest, which is very good for their self-sufficiency. And it also really builds that sense of, I can live again, I can start my life over again. We also do a lot of cultural orientation and this is a place where some of you said you want to volunteer. Cultural orientation is where we help people understand what American life is about. So, people volunteer to take a refugee family to the zoo, or take them up to the farmer's market, or take them for a walk out at Clark's Reservation and, kind of get a sense of like, what's here? What have we got here in Central New York that we didn't have in our country? And also we have to do very specific cultural orientation. We have to introduce them to the police and help them learn how to use 911 and, all of those kinds of things that help people become a good citizen. What day do you put your garbage out and all of that kind of stuff. We also have a bunch of programs that we can follow with refugees for up to 5 years if they qualify for those programs. One is medical and mental health supports. We do a lot of work. As you can imagine, people coming out of war and terrorism and fear are traumatized. They may have seen things that were horrific. They may have lost family members. So we now have mental health supports for people. We provide trauma-informed groups for women and men. We also will refer people for services, and we work with the agencies that provide mental health and medical services so that they can be more culturally appropriate in how they treat people. We have a family wellness program that teaches people how to care for their baby. We re-register them. You'll love this, Bill. We register them for the Imagination Library so that they get into a library right away and they start to read to their children from the very first days of their children's lives, and they get that literacy going right away. We have a diaper bank where we distribute over 11,000 diapers to families that have young children. Bill, you mentioned the community integration program and the reading of the book with Yara. We do that. We do things where we bring the community in to be part of refugees, as well as refugees out into the community. And then finally, the picture you see here, for those of you that may know Elaine Rubenstein of the Most fame, she is one of our volunteers, and she helps refugees learn how to pass the citizenship test and works with them on their immigration needs. So that's what we do for every refugee, no matter where they're from. And these are the two young women who run our refugee program. Marwa runs the initial resettlement first year, and then Genevieve does all those health and integration services. They're great women, really dedicated, have come up through the ranks. Marwa came to us as a refugee from Iraq, and now 10 years later, she's directing the refugee program. And Genevieve came to us as a Master's of Social Work student from Syracuse University. And over her time with us, we hired her, we promoted her, and now she directs the health and integration services. So great women to work with. The other area of our work, as I said, is the creation of this Ahmed and Elizabeth El Hindi Center for Dialogue and Action. So this has been a merging of these two departments. It's been an important merger for us, and it's being directed by Bishop Colette Matthews Carter, who's come on our staff in the last year. And she's rocking our world. She's just doing a great job with this merger. She also happens to be the president of the local NAACP. So she's a perfect person with knowledge around how to end racism and work towards equity for all people. Here's a couple of things that this division is now doing. You see a picture here of all these faith leaders. Those of you that mentioned that you're part of the temple communities. There's Rabbi Zahavi, who is the rabbi of Temple Adath. And behind him, you'll see the Lutheran pastor, a Presbyterian pastor, etc. So what are we doing? Well, we've been trying to build a relationship with the Onondaga Nation so that they know that they have friends in the city, that we can learn from their spirituality, and they can be part of what the whole city is doing. And so we asked them, what would be something we could offer to you in terms of a friendship? What would be an offering of friendship? And the clan mothers we were working with said, well, we've always wanted to have a chicken coop out at our farm so that we could provide eggs to all of the people, that the elders and the young families that need eggs and need protein in their diet. So we raised money and we bought this lovely little red chicken coop there. And we dug out the fence posts and we put in a chicken coop for them. And it's just been a great way to get to know the Onondaga Nation and to get to be friends with them. We also have been tackling hunger and the root cause of hunger, systemic racism. We have been building out tire gardens in families' gardens, and we've also built out a major garden at one of the churches on the south side. And so we have established these food pantries that I mentioned. We've planted the community gardens, and we've been creating community by having suburban churches work with urban churches. Like I think it was Bob who mentioned he and his wife Jean helped with a food drive at their church. All of that food is going to this project. So we have these wonderful gardens and a harvest celebration coming up this weekend where we're going to harvest the garden and cook meals for each other and enjoy each other. We also have a program to help people who are hesitant about getting the vaccination get it. And we're partnering with St. Joseph's Health and increasing vaccination rates in populations that are slow to get the vaccine. Now we move on to our third and final program, our senior services, Aging with Dignity. We have a coalition of service providers who are working to address racial inequities for the elders in our community. We did a study and we found that most of the major elder serving organizations like Alzheimer's and PACE serve majority white people. And that means that people of color and refugees aren't getting the services in the same numbers. And so we want to change that. We also have a new neighborhood advisor program where we can go door to door in the neighborhood here. We're based right east of downtown on James Street. So all the north side is kind of a quick walk to people's homes, and the advisor can go to door and find elders, and also digital literacy for seniors. We found many seniors during the pandemic had no way to FaceTime with their children. They didn't know how to order their groceries online. They were really quite isolated. And we have a senior companion program that we've been running now for 35 years, where for free, somebody can call us and say, I need somebody to just come in and be a companion, play cards with me, watch TV with me, take me for a walk, pick up some light groceries, do a little light, just be a friend to me, and just to break that isolation. And we're going to be serving 300 elders a month through that program going forward once we have rolled out the Us We Go program. Lastly, we have a program in the nursing homes, and we can always use volunteers. Like I lost my mother a couple of years ago, and I spent a lot of time with her at the nursing home. So after she passed, I asked to be paired with another woman that didn't have anybody visiting her. And so she and I became friends, and I was the one who brought the Mother's Day card and a balloon for her birthday and all that kind of stuff. So it just really breaks that isolation for people who don't have visitors anymore. And here's a picture of one of our visiting people. This is a woman whose family has all moved away, and she's up at the Nottingham, but she really doesn't have family here. So we're creating family with her friend, new friend, Melanie. We have a new vice president, chief operations officer, Olive Sapuma. Olive is wonderful to work with, and she's an immigrant from Botswana. She's been in the United States now 20 years, and she's just doing a great job here. And I just wanted you to meet Patty Riddell also. The three of us make up what we call the CEO suite. So she's our CFO. So I'm the CEO, here's our CFO, and you just met Olive, our COO. So if you like what you're hearing, know that you're investing in this mission, affirming the dignity of each person and every faith tradition, building racial and religious equity, and creating bridges of understanding among us. And some of you asked, how might you help us? Well, we need everybody to create this more just and equitable society. And you can help us. You can tell our story to other people. There are a lot of people, like some of you on this call, who know very little about us or know one thing about us, but we're a very broad-reaching organization. You can volunteer with us in any one of the programs that I talked about. All of our programs use hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. So, and we'll be happy to have you be part of that. You can also donate goods to us, your sewing machine, your tables. You can donate funds to us. We're doing a major fundraising campaign for the Afghanis. And so there's lots of ways for people to build our capacity, our action, our resilience, and the equity that this community needs.